Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is an exciting milestone for Be Awesome, episode 100. This is the year of 100s. My grandmother turned 100 a couple months ago. This is the 100th episode of the Be Awesome podcast, which I don't know, but I think a lot of podcasts don't make it this far. And we're going to get into Jeni Mather and her team, but from what I understand, she just hit back to having 100 team members on her in her company. And this is a real special episode. I'm going to introduce Jeni in a second, but I want you to know kind of the backdrop of why she's on episode 100. Jeni and I met 15 plus years ago. Our dog Cinda and our dog Pippi's still with us. She's 18, almost 18, 17 and a half. And Cinda at the time was, I think, 14. We had a bad experience at boarding our dogs when we went on vacation. Cinda ended up with a broken leg, and the boarding company didn't tell us about it, and it was a disaster. And we came to JM Pet Resort, frazzled dog parents, fur parents, or whatever they're called. But you take your pets pretty seriously if you care about them, which we do. We've got a whole herd of them, and we went in and we shared our story. I didn't even know that it was Jeni that was the owner, and we just talked to her, and she says, "Nope, we'll take great care of your dogs." And over the last 15 years, she's taken care of Cinda and Pippi and Rui and Lady and Birdie the cat. Even had a cat condo there for a while. And it takes a lot to entrust someone with your pets. It's like almost not quite as much as your kids, but it's pretty significant. And 4 years ago, we brought our dogs in, and we got to talking, and Jeni said, "Well, I have a leadership meeting." And I said, "Well, I'm starting a company, and I've got at that time almost 25 years of customer service experience from top companies, not just from books. And I'm going to be an inspirational, motivational speaker." And she said, "Well, come in and talk to my team, my leadership team." And I came in and we did a working session for a couple hours. And when I left, I don't even think my LLC was formed. I submitted the paperwork, and Jeni said, "I want you to do my holiday Christmas party." And so right then and there, I had my first agreement, my first paid gig, as they say. And Jeni ordered, I believe the number was 76. I think that's how many team members she had. She ordered 76 t-shirts, and to date, she's one of only 2 companies that has their logo on a Be Awesome t-shirt. And it was one of the greatest things to walk into her work, seeing people wearing my shirt on the front and her logo on the back, which says a lot about them. And so we've been through a whole bunch, and Jeni's been through a ton just in the last 2 years. Like, when you hear her story, you're going to go, "Holy mackerel." Like, you're still well put together and not gone crazy yet. So, but Jeni's very important to me, and she'll go down in history as the first Be Awesome client ever, and the story I'll remember. And I still have the notebook that all the notes I took at Starbucks on Belmont Street when we met and talked about what I was going to talk about. So, Jeni, first and foremost, welcome to the Be Awesome podcast. This is your first podcast too, right?
Not my first podcast. No, with you, yes, but not
okay. Okay, so seasoned veteran.
To be quite honest, there's nobody like you, Josh. So we'll experience for sure.
Well, thank you. So we talk about this podcast to showcase awesome things being done by people, and you have a remarkable story. And I want to start at the beginning, because one of the things that you showed me that we talked briefly about was and for people to do awesome, they have to be passionate, right? They have to wake up and live, breathe, and smell their passion every day. And your passion for what you're doing came at, like, what grade was it that you did the drawing, the shield, the crest, right?
Yeah. Oh, I wish I actually have that in the other room. So I can. That's right. You know everything, Josh. So when I was in the 3rd grade, I'm not known for not having big ideas about what I can do. I definitely have big dreams. My vision is large, and I think it was very young. And the assignment from my 3rd grade teacher was to draw the family crest. Now, my maiden name is Dwyer, and so I'm Irish. And so by all means, it should have been some sort of an Irish crest. And instead, it's a crest with, it says, Jenny Dwyer, number one vet, and then in the crest, it's got a rabbit and a hamster and a bunch of dogs and cats, and that's where it was. Like I knew third grade, like something to do with animals. And my mother gave that to me actually when I was beginning construction because she found it in the papers, so we have it framed. So it's yeah, but yeah, I mean, I knew from very early age all just that I love animals and I love people, and that was the path.
Very cool. Very cool. And in that so you're in the third grade, you got a lot of business planning you've got to do as you
Right,
grow
right.
up. Um, and we're going to get into your space because it's palatial today. It is absolutely just everything down to the specialized artificial turf for the dogs. But you didn't start out like that, and a lot of times people don't see the blood, sweat, tears, and the trials and tribulations. So when did you start? Where did you start? What was your first kind of couple of? I always say that the best parts of my story are right now. Like as I grow, like you just always have right now is like the best part of the story, right? And but sometimes you have to look back and go, wow, that was really cool. I mean, I want you to talk about the dog bus, but where did you start and how did you start your business?
Well, um, so I love the humble beginnings that began JM Pet Resort. It wasn't even the same name. It was almost on the same block. I first just want to say thank you very much for having me because I didn't start out by saying that. So I just want to take a beat and say, I really appreciate you having me here today. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me to be on the 100th episode. It's quite an honor. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, the honor is all mine.
No. So the story, the story is a simple one. It's a very young girl who just graduated college. I looked like a child. Essentially, now that I have so many of these young 20 somethings on, I realize I really was a child. Uh, and it was in 1998. I had read I went to Stonehill. Some people don't know that. I'm a South Shore kid. So I went to Stonehill. I was a biology major, and my idea was I was either going to be a veterinarian or I was going to be a doctor. I knew it was going to be something medically, science, behavior related. And as I was graduating from Stonehill, I had trained dogs through basically my whole Stonehill career for side money. And I also was an EMT, and I also was a veterinary technician. So I was trying. I mean, I can see now in hindsight that I was dwindling down what I was trying to do. I
Hmm.
read about doggy daycare in California. It did not exist in Massachusetts, which I know when I say that to people now, it's a hard thing to even it's almost like when like our parents said, "Oh, there was no TV when I was little," because because doggy daycare, like everyone knows about doggy daycare. It's a household name. But 25 years ago, it wasn't. It was a crazy notion like who's going to pay for you to like play their dogs, and even more so behaviorally, the industry didn't think that you could put groups of dogs together safely.
Hmm.
So I read about it and I thought it was a great idea. I wanted to take it a step further. I really wanted it to be behavior based. I know that great behavior comes out of good socialization. And that was the humble beginnings. I had a insurance agent who had a wife that it was Mr. Bierce, right in Brockton. His
Hmm.
wife was selling one of her children's daycare buses. It was a short bus. I decided to buy it. I had a client paint it, and um, thankfully, and I always want to give credit where credit is due, I asked everyone if they would allow me to put dogs in their building or on their property. I got a lot of no's. Um, I don't take no for an answer. I think that's one of the things that makes it so that you get this far. And Mr. Bertarelli, when he heard my idea, although I think he did think I was a little crazy, he said, "Let me show you these couple of buildings. And if you can make one of them work and you'll take care of it, I'll give you the space. I'll give you a shot. We'll start with 3 months. We'll see how it goes." And that was that. It was 760 West Chestnut Street. My building had housed gypsies. It was that's literally what was. There were people running like almost like a church and like a
Hmm.
commune in there, and I ended up with that building, and it was the beginning of what has been really a beautiful life.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for more. So
Yeah. I don't know if you know this. My office for a couple of years was 3 doors down from that, and mine wasn't Gypsies. Mine was a D-level recording studio that doubled as a grow farm before pot was legal. So when I moved in and I was doing the work, there was all this hydroponic equipment. I'm like, what is going on here? And it definitely had that interesting smell, but it was a recording studio in the back of a building on West Chestnut Street, and so it looked like they were growing something. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to assume that it was
something
the preparation. I'm going to assume it was in the preparation of the legalization of something. Um, so it's just you get this bus driving around picking up dogs, wild idea. Um, what was that like to just kind of think about, like, when you have to do a whole lot of self-reflection, and that building is like a mile away from your existing building. So I mean, you have to drive by that building and just go every once in a while, just kind of pinch yourself and say, because I'm sure you've envisioned a lot of where you're at today, but there's something different from envision and reality, right? You envision it, you think it, you will it, you big dreamer, but there's still that feeling in times where you're like, am I really driving this little bus with a bunch of dogs to a place to take care of? How is this going to work? And then, like, it worked and then some. Do you ever have those kind of like wow moments?
even now, I mean, at
Yeah.
this level, because I'm still a big dreamer, but certainly back then, I mean, I remember thinking, I mean, I had bills to pay like everybody else. I was young, I was on my own, and I was wondering like what the next month would be like. I mean, I think back now, I didn't have a computer. There was no credit cards. It was actually, I met my husband as a client, and he was the one who stuck his head in the window and said, "You do really much better if you took credit cards." And I remember thinking, like, who's this guy? Like telling me how to run my business.
Yeah.
So like, I think back to, I'm so grateful for those times because they were so simple and they were so challenging, and my hair felt like it was on fire all the time. But the friendships and the support from the community, and I think one of the greatest gifts that God has ever given me, and it truly is a gift, is that I end up being surrounded by very special people.
Mhm.
You know, I think that I'm very well aware that where I am now and where I was then is because as I grew, this is not a one woman show. It wasn't then, it isn't now.
Mhm.
It started out as an idea with a one woman show, but very quickly after that, even in the very infancy stages, I met Sandra, who's my
Yeah.
vice president. She's been with me over 2 decades, and I could not have done this without her.
Yeah.
It's just been just such a wild ride. I pull out it's funny now too, because like now I'm sitting in this conference room where I have this like fish tank and I have this table that I always dreamed of, and everything has happened in the order that it's supposed to happen in. But at
Mhm.
that time, that building was like, first we only had a quarter of it. It was only a
Yep.
4,000 square foot building, but we had a quarter. We had 1,000 square feet. I literally have the blueprint that I went to the city with, where I was like, I'm going to have the crates here and I'm going to have the little fence there. And our play area was probably as big as this room. And I, and yes, you're absolutely right. I drive by there. I drive my kids by there, and we'll pull in
Mhm.
the driveway and I'll say, this is where it started, and, follow your dreams. And you just don't know what time is going to like gift you if you really
Yep.
put work in. So.
Yep. So you started out with 1,000 square feet. What's your total square footprint today?
So the building itself is 36,000 square feet inside. And so obviously that's all usable space. And then the outside space, because that's all usable as well, because it's all turfed and we use it obviously for all of the services that we provide, is 20,000 square feet. So we're essentially over a 50,000 square foot usable footprint every day.
Mm-hmm.
And
And no, go ahead.
well, when we first moved in here, I mean, I know you'll probably ask me about this, but when we first moved in here in 2009, I remember walking in because we went at the old building 1,000 to 2,000 to, if you don't take the whole building, I have to rent it to someone else because our neighbors moved out because of the
Mhm.
dogs. So then it was 4,000. And then it was looking around. This building was initially a Holiday Kennels, and then it was a Best Friends, all during the time I was down the street. And Best Friends went out of business while we were thriving down the street, and which goes to show you that customer service means everything, um,
Mhm.
and creating that good emotional experience. And when we came here, I remember walking into this 10,000 square foot building that we completely redid, and thinking to myself, uh-oh, like, it's 2009. And everyone says this is a bad time to be doing this. This building is huge. We're going to get lost. And what are we going to do with all this space? And that was, I mean, we, within 5 or 6 years, we were looking to expand. So it's just,
Mhm.
it's funny how you look back and you just, like, at that given moment, like, everything seems so overwhelming, and how are you going to do it? But
Yeah.
if you put your head down, you do it. You just do it.
Yeah.
So,
My CEO at the time of 2009, that for those that forget, that was the worst recession in history. We were right in the heart of it, and my CEO at the time, we were on the mission to grow. Sat down with his sales team, me being one of them, and said, um, in times like now, the people that really win are the people that put themselves out there. Most companies are going to go in a cave. They're going to be very reluctant. They're going to just hang on to everything that they have, and they'll come out probably okay. But the people that are going to come out great are the ones that put it all out there and they say, you know what, I'm going for it. I mean, worst thing I can do is fall. But let's do this, and that's an impressive, for anybody to take that leap in that time frame. I mean, you literally have struck the lottery at bad time frames of doing something and coming out, on top. Because we're going to get into the COVID piece, which is just like I think that decision in 2009 was monumental. The unknown decisions that you made in warming up to COVID are like, wow, that makes everything look pale in comparison.
can I,
Um,
can I frame 2009 for you to do my
yep,
husband justice? So, uh, by the time when I started in 1998, I was a single young, I didn't know my husband yet. Within a very
yep,
short amount of time, I met George Mather, and we dated, and then, we got married. We had 2 children while I was in the old building, quick, back to back. I was kind of my clock was ticking, I think. So we had, 2 children within 18 months,
yep.
and then in 2009 was the third, and that would be 3 and 3.5 years. So I was pregnant with my third child during all of this. So I came home, and my husband was building something, because he's always building something. I think it was the third floor. And I handed him the stick, and I said, "We're pregnant with our third child, and that building around the corner for me is for sale. And I want to buy that building." I didn't even stop. It was like, "We're pregnant." And blah, 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 blah. Because I didn't want to know. And
Yeah.
I knew that if I didn't buy it then, that everything was going to change for us landscape wise at home. And so did
Yep.
he. And he supported me the full spectrum. So not only were we buying, I was taking this step as a company to buy this building, but we were also pregnant with our third child, which, by the way, all 3 of my children were very high risk pregnancies. One, I was on bed rest for 22 weeks. So
Wow.
that's when I say, can I frame it? Like,
Yep.
it was such an awesome time. Like, it really was. It was just such an awesome time.
Wow. And to go back on with Sandra, she's Sandra's she's an absolute rock star. I remember bringing Rui in for the evaluation for obedience school, and I walk in and I look at her because she's small, right?
Yeah.
Bringing 150 bringing a 150-pound dog that failed obedience school twice. I'm like, what is she going to show me? And
Right.
it was like just in the evaluation was an improvement from anything in the previous year. So that's one thing that I've seen. Um, you have this very interesting ability to bring people on that are just amazing, and you don't find them all in one place. They're not all related to you. They're not all
Nope.
childhood friends. I mean, Kelly, the only groomer that I will take any of my dogs to.
Mhm.
Just I mean, she's amazing. She calls my cell phone and she leaves me a message and she'll say, "Hey, your babies are ready." Like, nobody else has ever done that. Nobody has ever taken the pride. She literally takes pictures of our dogs and sends them to me. She's like, this picture was just too cute not to take. Like they get groomed. Um, you know, and I know that staffing has been tough, and especially the last couple of years. But what do you figure that is? Like, how do you find such? Because you don't have, like, I'm not going to say it's a perfect formula, but in 15 years, I don't think I've had, a bad interaction or an interaction where I go, that person's a bad representation of JM, or that person shouldn't wear a Be Awesome JM shirt. Like, where do you find these people, or how do you get such a group together? Because that's really kind of interesting. And we'll get into the vet clinic because they're just lights out rock stars.
So I spent a lot of time thinking about this because I agree with you 100%. I mean, when people, people know the brand. It's hard as
Yeah.
reverse. People know the
Yeah.
brand. You go somewhere, and the first thing I say is like, I don't do. It's not just me. Like the people that I work around and work with, they're an extension of family. Um, I think to try to answer your question straight, I don't. It's the animals. The animals bring us very wear your heart on your sleeve, very passionate people. There are challenges that come along with that. I'm going to say that. And the challenges is that when you can't ask people to be passionate about things, and then to shut it off when it's not convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is that a lot of times we have to take the time. So as a team, we have all learned that you can't dismiss people's feelings. You have to take the time to kind of work with them because they're human. People have problems. The truth is that the animal field does bring many people that are looking to heal in some way. And that's not unlike a lot of different industries. It's just that I think that they hide from that, and I don't, because I think it's beautiful. I think that you know it's messy and it's different, and you could say that we've got a lot of people that are on different levels of healing that are like making their way and doing their best. But what's so awesome to watch, and I love this in the dogs too, is that the growth, and in myself too, with each person that gets helped, whether it's a client or an employee, and not just by me, by the whole team, or each dog that's helped, we all grow. So that's when I look back, and I mean, one of the things that is really grown, and I had a hard time like even naming it in the mission statement, like when I'm always thinking about my why. What's my why? And everybody always thinks, oh, it's the animals. It's the why is about the animals. But for us and for everyone that works here, it's about both. It's about the animals and the people. And whether that's an employee or a client, it's about trying to figure out what it is, what's their pain point, what it is that they need. And so I think that because of that, you have this fringe of people that might be the ones that come and go, but the staples, they stay, and those staples, they're my heart. And that's like the JM Pet Resort team, and that's the family. And we have hard times like family, and we have great times like family, but every time you go through a hard time like that, you get even more connected and more loyal and more about how can we make this living, breathing thing successful. Because JM Pet Resort isn't me, even though a lot of people like to say that because I'm the face of it. JM Pet Resort is a thing that lives on its own, that all of these awesome people believe in, and they make bigger and brighter because they believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's so where they come from is the dogs bring them, and then they find it as a home. So
Mm-hmm.
you're right, Kelly. I mean, I've said this a million times. Not only is she a great friend, but she is one of the best people that I have ever met in my entire life. The kindness
Mm-hmm.
that shows when she handles the dogs, no matter how hard,
Yep.
and the patience is something that is to be commended. And there are quite a few people that are like that here. You know, they're
Yeah.
like fun heroes, and they're not looking for a reward. They're not looking for credit. They're
Yeah.
just looking to do what they do and make a difference.
Yeah. No, my dogs are upset when they leave there, and I'm confident that they would rather go home with Kelly than with me most times. So, I mean, that's, um, but talking about your team and your employees and the loyalties and the commitment and the care, it's to such a level. And this is kind of this is a tough topic, but I mean, it's to such a level that your team suffered a loss recently where a former team member passed away, and their family, instead of in lieu of flowers and everything else, they they suggested people make donations in his honor, to help take care of a dog that you've been caring for a long time that's in need of some surgeries. Like, you don't see that. You don't see such an amazing care for a company that people personally, even outside of that person, like their family, says, "Hey, you could send flowers and cards and make us all feel good about how much you loved our family member, but we want you to instead just donate in honor and help a dog or help dogs." I mean, that's pretty cool. And please share that so people can,
Yeah,
if they
I
if they
definitely
want
will.
to do something.
So, Celso Silva was, just like a lot of these, younger people that come and they find a place here. And his name's Celso Silva. He was an Easton resident, total rising star, smile that would light up a room, charismatic. I mean, when you ask the coworkers that he worked with that are still here, he would help anybody. He always made you feel important, and he was, and in that way, I feel like he was wise with beyond his years because he wasn't arrogant. You know, he's a young guy, muscles, like good looking, had gone off to go to business school. He hasn't been with us in years. I mean, that's the thing that I think that is the most like, oh my goodness, for their family to think of us. His crash was in 2019, and he had not been with us probably about 2 years prior to that. He was off at school and doing his own thing. He had taken a great job that he was just about to start. He had his whole life ahead of him, and unfortunately, he had a terrible motorcycle accident, and it changed everything for his family. Um, but the bond to Jam Pet Resort was through Celso, but it was also through the fact that he adopted a dog from us, that was his best friend. And again, Kelly and others took care of that dog, through puppyhood all the way through when Celso was unfortunately, not him, in a different altered state as he was hurt and his mom and family were taking care of him. So when Celso recently passed, I think that the kindness that the people that were here showed him and his beloved dog Ira, he they felt, I don't, we're not even a nonprofit. We had to create a GoFundMe to help King because we're not a nonprofit, and I wanted to make sure any money that was donated was appropriated the right way. But that was the best way that we felt that we could honor the family's wishes and honor Celso. And King actually went. So King's a dog that, has lived here for 5 years. Although we're not in the rescue business anymore, I still can never turn my back to an animal that's completely in need. It's just a part of me and the people that are here. And again, that's like, you can't have someone to have passion and to turn it off when it's convenient. So King was actually brought here, 5 years ago to be euthanized by the family that had him. And this is without judgment. I'm just reporting facts. It was because he had a disease that they had not been able to, they didn't have the funds to figure out what it was. And when he came in, he had such a stunning personality, wagging his tail, big, huge smile, 100 plus supposed to be dog at like 60 pounds, balding, and unfortunately bleeding from areas that he shouldn't have been bleeding from. We had said then, we'll take him and we'll see if we can find out, we can always euthanize him. And so with the most love in their heart, they allowed us to do that. And we had all good intentions on fixing his disease and then placing him. But it's a financial commitment to own King, and we love him here at the resort, so he lives here. He goes on field trips all the time with the employees. He has a regular volunteer, Jake, that has been coming here all through Blue Dog. Jake was here, and Jake comes and sits with him every day, and now Jackie comes and sits with him every day, among others. And that's what I mean about these special people. So I knew that Celso, I knew that Celso would be honored to help a dog that everyone here loves, and so
Yep.
that's why we chose that in memory of him. But the number of good people here, the list is long and far and wide.
Yeah. Well, and it's getting longer, and in terms of King, I've seen him over the years. I mean, it's a gorgeous German Shepherd. I just figured it was the owner, boarded him every day. And when you shared the story with me a couple months ago, I'm like, oh my God, what a time and financial undertaking, and the passion to keep him. And he's a happy dog. I mean, just a great happy dog. So I'm glad it's going for a good purpose. So you're at 100, you're at 100 employees today,
Mm-hmm.
but to get there, you had to take that space that you got in 2009, and you had to go up. You had to put a second floor on. You had to move. We didn't even talk about this, and we can incorporate this in the piece. But for years, you had a vet clinic that was in a bus, and it was a big bus, but it was or an RV, or so. It was just a big mobile. It was a mobile vet, right? Isn't that what it was? It was a mobile vet, but it was parked in the parking lot. So you want to put that. You wanted to give them an official space in the building. And you started construction. When I met you and your leadership team, when I got my first client, you were doing the design work because we met in your contractors conference room, and that was 2018. And you guys broke ground, and this was a big project. It was slated to be done, I think, in early 2020, right? Or 2019. It was done.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's all
Yep.
correct. Yeah. So the clinic, the bus story is a different story, and we should touch on that afterwards. But we had acquired this RV. It was 33 foot long. I had always wanted to have a veterinary clinic. For a very long time, I worked for North Main Street Veterinary Clinic, Dr. Haddad, who is another person that I respect so much and I owe so much to. He was always so supportive of everything that I ever did, and so was the team there. And I had told him early on, when you retire, Doc, I'm going to open a veterinary clinic. And he would say, okay, Jeni, all right, okay. I said, I'm telling you, I want to have a veterinary clinic that can pass on savings to clients, and we can have value. I want it to be more old fashioned client services. I wanted his special touch. And when he retired, he sold his business to a larger corporation, which he was definitely the next step for him, and well deserved. And so that was the time when I said, okay, we're going to open a veterinary clinic, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. And so I knew that I didn't want to spend $1 million, say, on a veterinary building, because I knew that cost would have to be absorbed by the clients. That type of debt would just make it so that everything would be so expensive for them that I didn't want to do it that way. So when the bus became available, we bought it. And actually, that was in 2017. And I already had plans up, Josh, on the wall that were much smaller than what we have now. I had announced them. They had been up for 6 months. We were going to do a very small addition, and the bus became available. And I had to course correct, basically, and mitigate all the expectations of all the clients that were excited for this huge expansion that we were going to do, which we thought was huge then, but really what we did was huge. And so I had to pull them down and say, sorry, just kidding, not doing the expansion, buying a veterinary clinic, going to park it in the yard. Oh, you have a vet? Nope, we don't have a vet yet, but we're going to get one, and we're going to have a veterinary clinic for you, and we're going to have a mobile clinic that's really not mobile, so that we can pass the value on to our clients. And so that's really how that unfolded. And then in building that up, we started our next stage of plans, which is when you did when you did our conference. And now all of a sudden the building was okay. Well, not only do we need to expand for the daycare and the boarding and the training and the grooming, we need to figure out how we're going to build a veterinary clinic in there. So what was going to be, I don't know, let's say it was like a 10,000 square foot addition turned into more than a 20,000 square foot addition. And that's the precursor to what happened when we broke ground in 2019. It was the end of 2019. The message, if you remember, was embrace the suck. That was before COVID happened. We knew that construction, because we were not going to close, because I needed to keep these people employed and I needed to keep the clients happy. We worked with CWB, which we had done with the first construction in 2009 of here. We never had to close. This is exaggerating a tiny bit because I think there was like a day or two, but I'm going to just say we never closed a day to our clients. Instead, we would tarp things off, and that's transforming. You had if this is the building, because our building was like long, it was long like this paper. We took the building and we went off, built a second floor and went off the back. And we did that all without disrupting any of the clients, and keeping all of the employees working. And then for added fun, in March of the following year, COVID hit. And actually, I remember that time because like it was yesterday, because the bus was out there for the clinic. We had a trailer that we had attached to it because the clinic was becoming quite successful and we needed more space. So we were doing surgery out of the bus, and we were doing office hours out of essentially like one of those rent-a-trailers that you get. My hospital manager had an office. He should be commended for this. She had an office in that trailer that was it was a construction trailer that we took the toilet out of the bathroom, the hole, put a freezer in her office and a desk, and put a shower curtain, called it a day. That was her office.
Yeah.
No word of lie. So these are like the awesome stories that we get to tell. You know what I mean? Now she's got a nice office downstairs, but we're all in. And then come March, COVID was a thing. We knew it was coming, and everybody had their own ideas of what was happening as it was coming, and it was coming, across different countries. We actually closed our doors and made them curbside a week before anybody else, because you know how when you just know, for me, herd immunity is like an everyday thing. We have a ton of animals here. So although the rest of the world was like learning what human immunity was and what it is for diseases to spread so quickly, if we have something here at the resort and we don't quarantine immediately with all the sociability of the dogs, that's a bad day. That's a bad week. That's a bad month. And so when you've got something that's starting off in like the dredges of a different country, way off in a corner, and it's skipping countries, you know it's coming. So we had closed, let's say that, they closed down Brockton on a Tuesday. It was like the Tuesday before. We fenced in the front of the building, and I mean, the rest is history. People were not happy for those 5 days, and then they were like, "Oh, that's why you closed off the building." So,
yeah, it was interesting because I was picking up my dog food and I was dropping off the dogs to get, and personally I liked it. No, I didn't like COVID, but I liked this. I liked the situation of I would call and say, "Hey, I need this," or whatever, and I would just park my car in the parking lot and I keep my music playing, and people would walk out, grab the dogs, or it would even, at one point they were even bringing the dog food to the car. I never even had to get out. I mean, I have become like this person that doesn't go into places anymore. Like Target, forget it. I think I've been in there like 3 times. I used to be in there every day, go to Starbucks and do some work and stuff. And it's not that I'm antisocial. It's just it adds life to it adds years to my life, right? It's become, if you look at it. But I remember seeing some folks that were, at times, like when you guys reopened and you guys kept the mask, even though the mask wasn't mandated in the state, you kept the mask requirement. And it was, it was out of care for your team, for them to not be exposed to something. And it was out of care for your business. I mean, as another piece is like, if your team all gets COVID and you have to close, that's big money that you gotta think about. And People are interesting. I think people are interesting that have pets because they're the pets are the client, right? So the pets are the ones that are getting the service, and they don't come out and bark, and you can translate it and be like, I was really taken good care of today, and I was this, and there was no, and so right, like so us parents, we make broad assumptions of like, oh my goodness, my dog has got a cough. Like, what could have happened while it was out of my, not in my care for the day, opposed to any number of things that could have happened, right? It's one of those interesting things. But I commend you for the decisions that you've made and the processes that you put in place. And one of the things when you're talking about when you're doing the building, I can remember one day that a part of the center of the space was kind of curtained off, and it was because they were putting cement and putting a post up for structural integrity, and you guys kept the showroom open. Like, I was amazed at the level of planning that had to go with mapping out, okay, on this day, we're going to do this, and this part's going to be closed. Then we got to move all this stuff over because you have calling it the showroom. I don't know what the store. You tell me what the right name of it is when you have
We
this.
call it the showroom. That's what we
Okay,
call it. Yeah.
so and I think that's fitting because it is. It's really it's such a bright, well laid out space, but it's got all the dog food, all the dog toys. It's where you check in all the dogs and some cats. I don't want to discriminate against the cats. Do you still have the cat condos?
Actually, now we have, so when you use the cat condos, we only had 3, and we only use them for people that had cats that they really needed boarding, first of all, and second of all, we knew that they would be okay with dogs like in the vicinity. I never wanted to do it on a large scale at that time because cats get stressed very easily, and rightfully so.
Hmm.
They don't want to be around a bunch of noisy dogs. So now we actually have a beautiful set of cat condos. It's very large. We have luxury cat boarding. We can do, lots of cats. We do a lot of
Hmm.
advertising. It's actually an area that has begun to take off, but it's one of the only areas that we have that isn't like, booming because people don't know about it yet. But it's a
Yeah,
completely separate part of the building so that they have the quiet that they need. They're allowed to get out and play.
yeah.
It's a pretty cool setup. But so yes, we have cats. Mm.
So we're celebrating Birdie being with us for 10 years. We have no idea how old she is. But I will never forget finding out that you had a cat condo, and it was like in an office space or an office. It was in a room right in the front of the building. And I was like, hey, let me check this out. And they're like, oh, this is multi-level cat condo. And I remember bringing her in, boarding her with the dogs for the first time, and I was going to pick them up, and they're like, "Oh, Birdie's great," and I go over, and she's literally just laying on the table, hanging out, and everybody's just like loving on her, and I'm like, "You don't even need a cat condo with this thing. She just sprawls out and hangs out." Um, but you never really think about when you think about boarding, you think dogs, and cats are pretty self-sufficient as a rule. But that's a very cool service. So the cats are growing in the JM Pet Resort because it's pet resort, not dog resort. That's
Equal
good.
opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Um,
I have to say, one of the things that you made me think of that's so funny because it is like it's those moments. I remember coming in and Jen Neary, she's one of our client service managers. She's been here over a decade. Uh, her saying there is like the levity of like there's a waterfall in our showroom, like
yeah.
welcome to our water feature, welcome to our water feature. And it
Yeah.
was literally because as you're putting in a pole, you're driving holes in the ceiling is what you're doing.
Right.
So now you've got a hole in the ceiling and it's pouring out, and you're literally just navigating having water pour in the ceiling while you're still checking in and checking out clients. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's just like one example of like rolling with the punches, but like making the best of it.
Yeah.
So
Did I read this right somewhere that veterinarians have one of the most stressful, like it's one of the toughest jobs as far as I can't remember what it was, but there's some statistic about veterinarians
yes.
that I never thought of.
So actually, veterinary medicine is one of the number one suicide rates of any profession. That's the
Wow.
best way that I can underscore it. Not more. If you want to learn out more about it, so you can know how you can support your local veterinarian, because hopefully all the people that watch this, they have animals and they want to support their veterinarians.
Hmm.
Look at Not One More Vet. It
Hmm.
is a crisis situation since COVID.
Hmm.
Mental health for everyone is, I mean, we're always talking, I mean, everyone's talking about mental health of
Yeah.
basically like the entire world. But when it comes to veterinarians prior to COVID, many veterinarians that get into veterinary medicine they love animals. They get into it because they think they're going to work with animals
Yep.
and they have an affinity towards animals. Their ability to navigate difficult clients and emotional crisis type situations day after day after day after day
Yeah.
is not their wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think
and
it's in anybody's wheelhouse, to be honest
no,
with you. I think that's a difficult. It's yeah.
right. And so to ask them to do that because in the name of serving animals leaves them coming up feeling like they're coming up short day after day. You and this isn't me picking on clients and saying people are. I have a huge understanding of those emotional moments when
Hmm.
people are behaving badly and they have every reason to behave badly, but the way that it's directed at the veterinary community and staff
Hmm.
leaves it so that they may feel better, but the people that they've dumped all this garbage on have to go home and feel that. So I'll give you a for instance. Oh, you don't care about my animal. It's all about the money.
Hmm.
Oh, you're not going to do it because you're not going to see my pet. You're not going to make time for my pet, even though I'm your client and I've always been your client. Not realizing that if you were to be a fly on the wall that day, that poor veterinarian and support staff has done everything they can to save a client that they've had for the last 10 years that morning.
Hmm.
They've walked into a room where they've had to euthanize a dog or a cat that's at the end of life, and the extreme sadness and grief that those people feel. You're there with them. You feel it.
Hmm.
No, I've done more euthanasias and been present for more euthanasias than I care to even admit.
Hmm.
It never changes the feeling that you have when you're in there. It's a special moment and it can be special, but it also is one of the most heart wrenching things that you'll experience because it is true love that these people have for their animals.
Yeah.
It's one of the purest emotions ever. Um, Constantly feeling like they have to stay late, always feeling like their day is never over, making sure that their communications are always done. It is being upside down in tremendous debt, having people not realize um, that the service that these people are providing, although they may think that it's expensive, that the support staff and the people that have dedicated their lives to it deserve to make a good living. It's
Hmm.
just the guilt that they feel when they have to charge for their services, the compassion fatigue. It just goes on and on and on and on, all these reasons. And then not getting the decompression and the help and the support that they need from, different veterinary hospitals. Now, I try as hard as I can, and I'm not perfect, to make sure that we're taking time out for mental health. Um, some of your listeners or people that know me know that there have been times when I have just said, yes, it's Monday and we're closing Friday and Saturday and we have to,
Hmm.
and we're sorry, we have to reschedule you. It's
Yep.
just, it's been too harrowing of a time.
Yeah.
And some people get very upset at that. Not having the protection of someone being able to come in and say, listen, I know you're really upset, but you can't talk to the staff that way. We're going to give you a pass right now because we know you're upset, but if you continue to do this, you're going to have to get services elsewhere. I mean, it's just like, your own life, being able to draw boundaries around, yes, I want to do this service for you, and no, I won't take abuse for it while I'm doing
Right.
everything I can to help you.
Well,
So it is
yeah.
a problem.
It's wildly emotional.
Mhm.
And Dr. Page, I have to give a shout out for because I love that guy.
Yeah.
He is, whether it was in the mobile van or when I was able to come inside or during COVID, which that's the hardest thing. The hardest thing is not being with your pet while they're getting treated or checked out, which I think that was probably an emotional time for a lot of pet owners. But absolute professional, always smiling. Like when I read that statistic, and I again I just saw it and read it a little bit, didn't read enough of it to understand. I'm going to do some more homework on it. Um, I thought of Dr. Page, and I'm like, if everybody's like Dr. Page, then then this is the right article, because he is just so upbeat and
So I'm
positive.
going to stop you right there because you're smart. I want
Yeah,
you to think of Robin Williams, and I want you to think of the most caring, funny, smiling people.
yeah,
And many, many times we know that those smiling, gregarious, make
right,
everybody else feel better people are the people that are suffering the most.
right,
And Dr. Page, out of respect for him, I'm going to tell you that it's no different for him. His days
yeah,
are very bad when they're bad. And
yeah,
when our clients don't treat him or the support staff with kindness, or maybe it's just the support staff they're not treating with kindness, the way that that comes back is the support staff is all stressed out and running around harrowed, and then they can't give Dr. Page what they need. So
yeah,
um, I just, that old adage, like you never know what people are going through.
yeah,
So I would just say, like, I think Dr. Page, I don't think, I know that he is one of the best people also that walks this earth. But if you are in this profession, no matter how strong you are, the
hmm
days that are bad are dark.
yeah.
And that's everyone.
Did I ever tell you the one business that I would start if I had like a good amount of money? And this is like the genius idea of Josh. If I could start one business that I had financing available to do it, it would be pet life insurance.
Mm.
So this is the number one, my opinion, personal opinion. I've unfortunately had to put a lot of dogs be euthanized, and when I go in, last vet cried with me, literally was in tears. The biggest challenge that I see with having a pet is one. There's two big challenges. One, bills while they're here. The second, which is number one, is that day when they will die, because all of us will die, including our dogs, cats, and others. The worst moment of your time with your pet is after you've had to do the unthinkable. Hopefully, you were there with them to say goodbye and give them the comfort of knowing that you were there, because a lot of people don't, but it's important. But being in that room, watching your loved one pass right in front of your eyes, and then walking out and being given a bill or being asked to pay an amount of money before you leave. And so my thought, genius idea, is when a dog is born, when you take a dog in and you have a choice vet, right? And you got to build a network out of it. But what if you charge $5 a month, right? Charge $5 a month. It's going to be a weighted scale thing. Some are going to last, 10, 12 years, but the average euthanasia and everything else, probably about $500 to $1,000, depending on where you go. I don't know what the total number is. But if you charge someone $5 to $7 a month, they paid a yearly premium, so you're not billing them every month. 60, $75 a year. And when that time comes, the dog passes. You say, "I'm sorry for your loss," and they get to walk out and they don't have to worry about the financial burden, because that to me is where people get wildly upset. You have the emotional piece of the loss, and then you have the financial piece of like, holy mackerel, I can't believe you're doing this to me. We had a dog that we spent probably $10,000. Um, um, had all sorts of issues. Had to do special tests and send him off to Australia and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, dog had to be put to sleep. And so after we spent all this money on the dog to try to, give it a good life and all this other stuff, excuse me, put it to sleep. The next thing you know, walking out and you're just miserable and upset and you can't believe all this stuff. And they go, "Oh, on your way out, we've got this untaken care of bill here. Do you want to settle up?" And you're like, "Oh my God." And that's how you get upset, right? That's an emotional thing. So that's my number one business, giving some money. Don't know if it works because I haven't been able to find somebody that does it, but isn't pet insurance while they're here, but it's pet life insurance. So, so that's my genius idea. Feel free to take it because I'll never do it, but I think that would relieve a lot of stress.
It's a great idea. I
So,
mean, I think that approach and sensitivity, when we talk in our manager meetings, because we have leadership meetings all the time and we're always trying to pass down like the special sauce of how to treat people and how to create long-term generational clients.
mhm,
And when you boil down those emotional experiences, the number one the most emotional experience is that end of life time. And if you can make that just a tiny bit easier or a little bit more special for
yep,
that person in that family that's going through it, you will have you will have a family that is dedicated to you for their entire life. They'll never forget it. They'll always forget how you made them feel. And
Yeah.
so for us, we never collect at the end. I will tell you that. We always make sure everything is done ahead of time. We have some special things that we do. And that's not to discredit other places. It's just to say I could not agree with you more. I like your life insurance idea. A separate exit
Your
for
team,
people that
I don't know if they do this for everybody, but every loss, you guys have been through 5 or 6 losses in 15 years. I've gotten a card every single time from your team, from a number of your team members that say, terribly sorry, that we're not going to see Lady here again, which Lady was also known as Mudflap, but that's a story for another day. We only had her for 6 months, but you guys, even then, short time, you still recognized her, which was great, which I was grateful for. I lose you? You freeze?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what happened. Hold on. Is that better?
Yeah. Yep. No, you're good.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's good. I think that for that, people should go to you just for that one factor, because I know that. So we've unfortunately had to use a number of different vets based on timing and issues and challenges, and all of them, including a very well-known big one in Boston. That's their process and procedure. Their procedure is collect on the way out, and that's a very emotional time. But this has been great getting to share. So I think in closing, if there's anything that I missed, I know I missed a lot, because we didn't even get into your 360 degrees of happy health. We didn't get into more of the fact of you injuring your leg. I think we could go for like 2 hours or more, and we'll have you on. We're not going to wait till the 200th episode, but I think we should have you on again to talk about some of the importance and a lot more of the detail of the customer service and things that we've had. But in a nutshell, and this is an endorsement, this is a recommendation, this is a 15-year client. Any pet need you have can be done today under your roof, from boarding, obedience, long-term boarding. You do day boarding and long-term boarding with luxury suites. The design layout and the Lux suites, I'd sleep in them. And the thought process all the way down for them having a window to look out of that's at ground level so that they can have something to look at, the specialized turf for outdoor play, the veterinary, the dog food, and all the needs, vitamins and toys and everything else. There isn't anything a pet owner could need that they can't get under your 50,000 square foot of space, right?
That is always our goal. We are in the business. Our mission is to support every age, every stage of harmonious relationship between people and their pets. And the way that we do it is through our 360 degrees of happy health. And we kind of call it like an I got you campaign. So basically, where our goal, our why, is we know, because we've done shelter work for so long, that animals, no matter how much you love them, sometimes end up in precarious situations where they end up outside of people's homes. And so during any of those ages and stages, whenever you have those things that become problems, we're there to say, I got you. Whether there is puppyhood things, whether it's a boyfriend and girlfriend that have a new pet, and they're trying out this relationship, and then they break up, and they need now the new one person owner needs support with daycare, at socialization, pet sitting. It just the most rewarding review that we get, and we do get them, and the one that I get the most excited about are those reviews that come back and say, wow, we looked back on our animal's life and we could not have done this without you. And we are so glad and thankful that you were able to support us in so many different ways. And it doesn't have to be all of them, because at all different stages, everybody needs different things. And so if we can accomplish that while also making our team stronger and feel valued and supported, then that to me every day is a win.
Awesome. So. Well, I got to say first, thank you for taking such awesome care of my pets, being the first Be Awesome client, and most importantly, becoming a dear personal friend, and keep up the awesome work. And appreciate you making some time here this morning to go live and get on the podcast for ceremonial episode 100. I feel like I need fireworks behind me or something, but this has been great.
Thank you for having me so much. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure. And I love seeing your company grow. You make such an impact. You're such a great guy. It shines through in everything you do. And any sort of crazy ideas you have, I'm in. Okay.
Yeah, we got it. Well, we're going to do it. And that's what we're going to wrap up on, because I love crazy ideas. So
Yeah.
in the meantime, if you like the podcast, 5-star rating and reviews get you a free t-shirt. If you want to see what the t-shirt looks like, go on down to JM Pet Resort. There's people that wear them with their logo on the back. And please share, follow, and do all that good stuff to keep us growing, because that's what we're doing. And in the meantime, if you can be anything, be awesome.